Hello friends, welcome back to another awesome day. Day 46 of the 100 days of hell with Python algo trading. Today we'll be continuing with the web scraping. In previous session, we have learned that how to extract the data, the financial data from the trading view. And in this video, we will learn that how to extract data from any website because it will be required a lot as a quant engineer, right? So I'll show you from the basic to advanced. Please stay with me for 2 sessions and you will see that you have an advanced understanding of this topic. And one more thing, that we also have so many Python libraries which helps us to get the data. But in background, all those libraries are also using this same concept. So I think it's better to understand this topic deeply. So it will just take 2 sessions. Then again, we will start with our book, right? Web scraping means getting some data, extracting some data from any source. Okay, let me build it brick by brick. So let's say we all have our Windows system and in that we have my computer. Let's say in that we have 2 folders. One is data 1, another is data 2. If I want to simply copy and paste data from this folder to this folder, it is very easy. I can easily do that, right? Simply. But let's say my friend who come to my house, then if he have the access to my system, means if he knows the password, then he can also log in and copy and paste data from these folders. That's a simple analogy. But let's say if some of my friend who lives in another city, I'll write here another city, and if he wants to access the data, what he can do? I have some options. I can send him an email, or if the data is bigger, then we also have the option of FTP, file transfer protocol. But FTP is like simply file transfer protocol, right? And it is only for like limited amount of people. It cannot handle a lot of traffic. Okay, now let's say if we have multiple person who wants to access the same data. So for that, it is not feasible for me or for them to send or receive the file one by one. So in that case, what I can do, I can simply take this data and host it on a public web server, right? Let's say web server. Web server is nothing, but let's say it's your system is hosted on a public server so that anybody who has the right privilege can access the server simply. So now as the data is on public server, anybody who has the right address and the right privilege, they can access this one. So to access the public server, what we need the access and the address. So now what is web scraping? So web scraping is nothing but to extract the data from these public servers. It can be public, it can be private. If it's private, then we should be having the access, right access, the username, password, or the API keys. And if it is public, then we just need the address and the right methods to access or extract this data simply. So in order to extract this data, we have few options. So one of them in Python is beautifulsoup. It's a library, and with the help of that library, we can easily scrap the data. But for that also, we need to have some knowledge of that how the data is being stored and how the data is being accessed. So whenever we want to access the data, what we need to request it, right? So let's say this is web server. Okay, I'll write it here. So let's say this is a web server, or let's say this is Yahoo Finance, right? Finance.yahoo. So this is server. I want data, means I am the client. So I'll write here Kuldeep, which is a client. So now in order to access the data, I need to request it. So I will request. So that is known as the GET request because I want the data. Or let's say in some case, if Yahoo Finance allows me to change some data or they ask me to maintain the data, so what I can do then I can make a post request, right? In post request, we can modify the data of server if we have the right access or the privilege. But now in web scraping, mostly we deal with the GET request only. So I'll remove this post for now and I'll talk about only GET request. So whenever we make any request, a GET request, or in general in our real life, so when we request anything from anyone, there are only 2 possibilities. One, the other person will grant the access. Second, they will deny the access. So let's say here, if the Kuldeep client is making a GET request to Yahoo Finance that I want some data. So now Yahoo Finance have 2 options. What are those options? Let's say I'll write it here, GET request from Yahoo And Yahoo has two options, right? Whether they will grant the access or they will deny the access. If they grant, then I will be able to extract the data from Yahoo Finance, then I cannot. So if they grant the access, means I can get data. If they deny the access, means I cannot get the data. So whenever there are these kind of requests, there are some codes which tells us that this request was granted or denied. So whenever we get this response code, status code 200, it means our request is granted. If we get any other, let's say 403, 501, there are multiple codes, and for now we are not concerned with them. We just want to see that if our response code, when we made the request and in return the response code was 200, means it's all good, we are good to go. So we'll focus only on get request. In that also we'll focus only on 200, which is a response code which tells us that your data access has been granted and you can take data from this place. Okay, now again, to get the data, we have two options. One is simply we open the browser, we enter the address of any website, and we can see the data. The other option is to access the same website from our code, right? So in code, we receive kind of codes. And so let me show you in browser, or let's say Python, right? We have two options. So when we make a request, a get request from browser, the Yahoo Finance automatically detects that it is from a browser, so it can easily queue without any issue. But when we access from Python, it will think that it is from an automated source and I cannot give this. So it will detect that it is from Python and I will deny it. So in that case, what we will do, we will pretend that this request from Python is also coming from the browser, right? And for that, what we can do, we can pretend, right? So for that, we have to change the headers. Headers are nothing but the part of a HTML page. Let's say, let me show you. This is a HTML page. So in all websites, the data is stored in some or other form of the HTML. And in HTML, there are two parts mainly. The top part is header and the below part is body. In header, there is information about that this request is coming from which place, which kind of device, which kind of the time zone and everything, right? So it tells the server that it is coming from a browser, or it is a bot or a automated request, or from a code. And this body consists of the content. So if we make a get request, in response, we will receive a HTML code, which also consists of header and body. And in body, we'll have the data simply, right? So when we make request from Python, we will just change this header to any other proxy, let's say a Chrome, or let's say a Mozilla, and then the Yahoo Finance will think that it is coming from a browser. Okay, so let me show you. It is a very practical thing. Let me show you. So now, in order to send or receive any request, we have an awesome library in Python, and that is request. So first of all, we have to import the library. So I'll just go in code editor and import request, right? And I'll run this cell. And it's working fine, means we have successfully imported the library. Now we'll make some get requests to any random URL. So the best URL is Google, right? So I'll write URL, and here I'll declare https www.google.com, and now I'll run this and add another cell, and here I can use request.get, and here I can pass the URL. So when I run this, you will see that we have a response code 200, means it is working fine, and Google is successfully allowing us to make a get request, right? So similarly, what happens if I change this URL to some other URL? So let's say I'll go to Google, and let me show you. So this is any random URL, and I'll quickly go and copy and paste this URL. So I'll copy it here, and I'll declare another variable. So let's say it is URL2, and here I'll pass this Amazon URL in a string. Okay. Now I'll go again here, request.get, and here I'll pass URL2, right? And when I run this, you will see that it says URL2 is not defined. And why? Because we have not run this cell. So I'll just run, and I'll come back and run this again. And now you'll see that we have a response code 503. And that is a problem, right? So because whenever we want to scrub the data, first we check the URL, if it is allowing us or not. So in this case, Amazon URL is not allowing us, right? So, and we have to resolve this issue. So first of all, let me show you a few more things. That what are other things? So we have request or content. So what I will do, I'll store these responses in some variables. So let's say it is Google response, so it will be G response, and I can make this as a response, right? And run this cell. And now G response dot content, you will see that we have a HTML page, and we know that on web almost all the websites have HTML by default, right? Whenever they make any website, there is an index.html, and there are multiple things which use always HTML, right? Now, if I check for a response.content, it is also somewhat similar, not exact same, but it is almost similar, right? Because HTML is always there for sure. Now, we also have headers. So I'll go and check gresponse.headers, and you will see that this is a dictionary. It is not clearly like visible. So for that, what we can do, I can simply, we know that we can write items in dictionary, and we can run a for loop on that. So for key value in this dictionary, and I can print that with the help of formatted string. So F, and here it will be K, and then we have V, correct? So when I run this, we can see this in a beautified response, right? The date, expires, cache control, content, and these are all this is known as metadata. On the basis of this, it decides that whether we should allow this request or not, right? Now I'll show you a few more things, that is status code. So for status code, what you can do, you can check, we have done that already actually. Status code, it is 200, and for Amazon it is 503. So to resolve this, we have the user agent. And what is user agent? So whenever we make any request, let me show you, gresponse.request.headers, and you will see that there is a dictionary, and here user agent is Python request, means they are able to know that the request is coming from a Python, and it could be a bot. So in order to avoid that, in order to get congested the traffic, they always want to avoid these kind of requests. From browser it's okay, but from bot they always try to avoid that. So that's why you are not able to access that, right? So for that, what we can do, we can make them full, right? We can pretend that the request is coming from a browser, and for that you need to know a crucial thing, and that is your user agent, right? So currently it is Python, and if you want to change this, what you will do, you will go to Google and you ask him that what is my user agent, right? So you can just open this and search on Google that show my user agent, and you will see that you have a response Mozilla, and you can use this as your user agent in the Python. So I'll open the Python, and what you can do, you can quickly go and declare anywhere your user agent. So I'll write here user agent, and I'll pass here, right? And run this. Now what we'll do, we know that this request library gives an option to pass an argument with the header. So what you will do, I'll just go here and copy this whole content. So here there was no header, user agent. So I'll paste it here, and here you can pass a header. So in header equals to user agent. Actually in GResponse there was no issue, so no need of this header. We had issue only in the Amazon. So I'll run this here, and it gives an error which says str object has no attribute items, because we have seen that user agent is in a dictionary. So we have to declare a dictionary, and what we did, we just declared a string. So I'll just make it a dictionary key value pair, and here I'll pass a key which is user agent, and run this. Now when you go back here and run this, it runs, and now let's check the response. So a response, and it is 200. So earlier when I remove this header, it is giving me 503, and when I add this back, it is giving me response 200. Means we are able to make them feel that this request is coming from a Safari browser. So that's how we do this. This was the basic explanation of get request. So now what we will do, with the help of request and beautiful soup, we'll try to sum financial data from the websites, right? So let's do that. So now let's understand what is Beautiful Soup. So Beautiful Soup is a Python package which helps to extract or scrap data from the websites, and it creates a parse tree, right? And what is parse tree? Let me show you. Okay, let me open this and HTML parse tree, right? And you can see here in the images that this is known as a parse tree. Let me zoom it out. If you can see here, so what is a parse tree? Parse tree is nothing but a hierarchy of any document. So first of all, we have a document, and inside that the HTML page is the root element. And we know that in HTML we have head and we have body. So we can say that the document is the parent of this root element HTML, and then these are the children's, the head and body. Means this is parent, then HTML is the child of this document, then we have another two childs, head and body, and these head and body are the siblings, right? Then we have multiple elements, the title and text of head. Then again in the body also we have a different kinds of links, we can have paragraphs, so many things. These are basic HTML details you can like quickly see on Google, and then you'll be able to understand that. So what does Beautiful Soup do? So it will create a HTML parse tree, and we have to make use of that. Okay, let me open it again and let me show you. Okay, so first of all we have to import the Beautiful Soup. So what I'll do, I'll go at the top and I'll write from bs4 import Beautiful Soup, correct? And I'll run this and it is imported. Now we already have two URLs, URL1 and URL2, but for the sake of this example, so I'll take any other website. So what you can do, we can simply open Google, and here let's search Yahoo Finance. Let's open it and choose any stock. Let's say, let's open any crypto. It's been long since we have seen that. So, okay, cryptocurrencies. And here, let's say BTC USDT. So I'll click on this. So now what we'll do, we'll try to fetch this data into our Python. So I'll copy this URL from here and let's open our Python, correct? And here I'll declare a URL, that is URL3. Here I'll declare URL, that is URL3, and here I'll pass this URL and run this. Now we already imported this Beautiful Soup, so I'll create another cell, and here I'll try to send a request. So request dot get, and I'll pass this URL3, and let's say what happens. We are getting a response code of 200, means it is working fine, correct? So I'll save it and let's say Y response, because Yahoo, so Y response. Now I'll check the status code again. So Y response dot status code, and it is 200, and it is working fine. So Yahoo is not blocking us for now. Now when I run Yahoo response dot content, you will see that we have the content, but it's not clearly visible, right? It's like a very messy code, and we cannot fetch any useful information from this content. So for that, what we'll do, I'll just use the response text. So here what you can do, you can also use the response text here also, Y response dot text, and you will see that we have this HTML code, but it's not that useful. So now what we will do, we will try to create a soup object. So for that, I'll write Beautiful Soup, and here I'll pass the response, this one, right? So I'll go here and I'll write Y response, and you have to also mention the HTML parser, right? HTML parser. And when you run this, you will see that it says it has no length, because you have to pass here content, and then you get a web page in your Python. But still it's not that beautiful. So for that, what you will do, you will write here soup, run this cell, go to next cell, and we'll try to little bit prettify it. So soup dot prettify and print this. Okay, print this, and you will see that and you get a little bit better HTML page, which is a little bit beautified. You can see here we have a proper title, we have the meta content, then all the links, then HTML body and rest. Now if you want to print this title, this one, what you can do, you can simply go to the next line. Now what you will do, you will write soup dot title, and you will run this and you will get this title. So this is how you can print the page in a controlled manner. Now we will learn that how to print all the useful information from the page, right? Step by step. That we will cover in the next video. For now, practice until this, because this is the most important part, right? Practice this on multiple pages, and then we'll start with the next topic. So until then, take care, bye bye, have a nice day.